Well, hello. I'm back. Um, I know I mentioned a few times about this eye problem I've been having. By the end of building Zoidberg here, I could barely see out of this eye. This eye was super blurry, had big brown splotches, and I could just was just navigating through it barely to get that coat done. But I got it done, and then I decided I should really rest this eye, and it's probably 80%, 90% now, which is great. I just have a couple of little things, and it's clear. So, it probably would have cleared on its own anyway. But I know that like looking over like this really puts a lot of pressure on it. So it probably was better that I took a few days off. Anyway, I in the time since and I there's the other one. I did put Terry up for sale on eBay. There's a link um in my whatchamacallit in my feed, my Facebook feed that gives the details, or you can look it up on eBay. It's I believe the only Terry that's up there. So I had to tell him to stay in my apartment, stay in my little shop here, so which is also my apartment. So if you're interested, that's available, and this will be available soon. I'm pretty sure. And Strange Pork might be available pretty soon. So those are the three that I'm thinking about selling. I'd rather keep Strange Pork. I'd rather keep. Well, if I did a voice for Zoidberg, maybe I'd keep him, but it's a little bit easier for me to get rid of him. But anyway, on to the fun stuff. I printed out these pictures. Now they're just black and white, but I printed out these pictures of Godzilla here. So one of my friends got me a gig building a costume for a orchestra concert where they want to have Godzilla come in somehow, and they have this 6'3" guy who's gonna wear the suit. I'm not gonna make a full suit. I'm probably gonna make the shoulders, the claws, the feet, and the tail and the spine going down the back, and maybe a chest plate. So most of the suit, but it's going to be kind of a modified one made out of foam. I did watch some tutorials while I was convalescing. Hey Chase, while I was convalescing, I did watch some tutorials, and there's a lot of guys up. There's a couple of guys who built some from scratch, and I'll probably do some of the things they did, but there's some things I think I could probably improve upon too. And because I'm not getting paid a whole lot for it, I'm going to be making it out of the floor mat foam. So it's going to be really big. I don't know how I'm going to actually do it as a live feed, but I'll probably check in from time to time on the build just to show you what I'm doing. I do have another. Actually, I'm not going to do Godzilla right this second. I want to show you something else I've been working on. So I know there were a lot of people who thought, since I got Zoidberg done, oh boy, that's set up just perfectly. Since I got Zoidberg done, they'd like to see Fry or some of the other Matt Groening type characters. I'm not about to do all of them, but I started thinking a lot about, oh my gosh. I started thinking a lot about how this thing's going to actually tighten. Let's see. It's like here. It's still really loose. Okay, so I started thinking about a couple of things. Number one, I've got to rebuild Ralph. But he has a jaw that I think would work pretty well for that Simpsons Matt Groening type jaw. Let me put it in frame. You know, this idea that all the Simpsons have of this jaw, which also works for Fry. And I was thinking about patterning out this shape coming up and offering that as a pattern that people could buy. because I think it's very interesting, and I think I can get some motion out of it that looks more like this and modify it for what I'm using it for. But I think that it might be something, maybe somebody else wants to build, a Homer Simpson or a Fry or something, and that this basic jaw could at least point them in the right direction. So that's something else I'm working on. That might be my next full tutorial that I do. But in the meantime, I have been trying to figure out Godzilla here. And these are some of the ideas that I have for how I'm gonna do this. Some of the basic shapes. It's gonna be finding the basic shapes probably out of cardboard, and then I'll transfer that to foam, and then carve it up and paint it. And I think that's about as far as it's gonna go. Some other ideas. There was a guy online. I don't remember what his name was, but he had a pattern that was kind of like this. So I might start with that and see how close I can get. I did print out some of these pictures of this toy, which they don't print out all that great, but at least it's a starting point for the shapes I want to get. There's a view of Godzilla you hoped you'd never see. Yeah, so anyway, those are the things I've been working on. I guess I could start to figure out these shapes. I got some cardboard. So let me find a view that you can actually see what I'm doing here. So let's see. I don't know that I'm. What is this? I think this is a piece I cut off of the back of the Zoidberg's head. But I'm not 100% sure. Okay, so I think how I'm going to approach this is I'm going to make a small one, see what I can get, and then blow it up. I suppose I could show you guys what Zoidberg looks like too. If you want to see how he turned out, I can show you in detail. Okay, I'm going to look at the pattern that this guy talked about. What spidery looks okay. What is the most ambitious thing you ever considered for Melonful? I think I don't know if you've gotten to this, but I think in the 6th book there is a storyline called The Ultimate Ralphie, where like millions and millions of Ralphs or Ralphies all try to figure out how to save the universe. That one was pretty ambitious. And then I did something in the reboot where basically they came back to Ralph's original lab and they found millions and millions of Sammys running around, or hamsters running around, giant hamsters. So that was pretty ambitious, I think. Can you show us what spidery looks like? What's spidery? I don't know what spidery is. See, I wish I had a toy of Godzilla that I could work from, because that would be much easier for me to see the shapes. Hey, knock it off. Oh, Zoidberg. Oh, yeah. So, all right, here's Zoidberg. Ooh, I've got to get on the ground. He's so big. Might be one of the bigger puppets I've built. So there he is. My really bad Zoidberg is, let me think. What are you looking at? Yeah, see, that's pretty bad. I'm not confident enough to use Zoidberg, but when he talks, oh, what about Zoidberg? It's pretty bad. Yay. But yeah, so he has his little coat. He's got his little scrubs on. He's got his 2 claws. He's got his mouth that works with my hand. And the back is it's pretty well seamed for not really doing clothes. I don't usually do clothes, but I was gonna iron it, but then I was like, oh well, Zoidberg would never iron his outfit. It's just a big mess anyway. So, but I'm pretty impressed with. I mean, for what it is, I mean, it gets the job done, and I kind of like when I do that. It kind of reminds me of in the show. I've been watching some old Futuramas, the first season, and I saw the episode with the fin that comes out, and I thought maybe I should make a fin before I offer them up for sale, and it could just be pinned on if they want to do it. But I don't know if I'll do that or not. I have just enough fabric to do that. So that's Zoidberg. See, I as much fun as this puppet is, it's hard for me because I don't really do the voice, or I don't really have an idea of how I would do it. Kind of stuck in here and kind of try and do it, but I don't know. I think I just get embarrassed. And like I said, I need the money, so. Wow, I just restarted before I started this thing, and my computer's already starting to overheat. Okay, let's see. So there's been a couple of real endings to Melonpool. There was the one it was in book 5, I think, and there was basically what happened was they tied up all the loose ends and then took off, and then I came back like 8 months later and I did it. And then the last ending, there was another ending that I did when basically Ultimate Ralphie happened, and there was an ending there. I don't think you've gotten there, so I won't spoil it. Where they kind of reset the universe, and then that goes into the reboot version. But there's those are the ones I can think of. I mean, whenever I stop doing it, it's always kind of like it's not The only time it's been a conscientious choice to end it was that first time. Because I'd moved on to other things, and I thought maybe it would be a better, I could spend my time elsewhere, and people might enjoy those ideas better. Um, but then I ended up just missing it so much that I came back. Um, those were uh, that was more of a conscientious choice to end, so I could kind of think about what I wanted to do. Um, but I most of the time when I've worked on these things, it's always been I get so overwhelmed, and then skip a couple of days and nobody seems to notice, and skip a couple of weeks and nobody seems to notice, and then a couple of months and then nobody seems to notice. And so it makes it real easy for me to be like, oh well, maybe nobody was reading this all this time. Maybe it's really super easy for me just to stop doing it altogether. Although in hindsight now, I think I probably made the wrong decision. I think that maybe people were reading it and they were just trying to be understanding of my temperament. Oh yeah, yeah. I can't remember which of those storylines it was, but yeah, she always liked Ralphie. I think Mayberry liked her because she was the only girl. That was always kind of a theme in my life, though. Like the girls I was always really interested in ended up with my friends anyway, so it made it real easy for that to carry over to Melonpool. This template is actually working pretty well. I think I could probably start building this thing. Um, Not have too many problems, at least at first. I wonder if I had to just build it the way I always build, out of that junk foam, and then transfer it over. See, these are the things that always these are the things that delay me at the beginning on these projects, is trying to figure out how to get started, and then once I get started, I'm in pretty good shape. So that's what I built from the guy's little pattern that he made, and that looks pretty good as far as at least a place to start. Okay, so I forgot about the future because of the reboot. I think if you ever made a definitive ending to Melonpool, it would be funny to Roberta and Jalea dated, because Jalea is technically a dude. Oh, well, I played around with that a little bit. It was always that Ralph made so many modifications that she was just confused as to what she was. Um, I don't know. It took on a life of its own. Um, I was fascinated by, and still am, the costume of C-3POs, and that was where that all kind of started. Um, but I think so. So in the reboot, which is canon but isn't, if I ever come back to it, I'll explain it all how I figured out that it would work. But in the alternate rebuilding, Roberta and Ralph had actually were divorced. They were married at one point, and they were long ago divorced, and they had that background. And then when Ralphie was created in that universe, she started having feelings for that Ralphie, because the big thing she didn't like about Ralph was just how horrible of a person he was. But everything else she liked about him. So that's kind of the way that one worked. Um, but I don't know. I think I like the idea of it not being as much about that, about who everybody liked or who everybody was dating or whatever. It was always more of an idea of a bunch of people who couldn't stand each other that had to work together in order to survive. Um, I mean, they had friendships. Ralph tolerated Sammy. He needed Sammy. He tolerated Sam. He needed Sam. He couldn't stand Mayberry, but Sam liked or wouldn't do anything unless Mayberry was involved. So he kept Mayberry around for that reason originally, and then he also added, made a scapegoat out of him, which also, made it that relationship. Ralphie took most of Ralph's initiative in his half. So, in order to get anything done, he had to keep Ralphie around just so that he could get anything done, because much like me, he couldn't finish anything after after Ralphie came along. And that was kind of the dynamic. And then Roberta was kind of like, she for a lot of it supported them because she was the only one that could hold down a job. But she couldn't get off Earth, and she couldn't get home without them, so she put up with that. It's just like all this different thing. I saw it as like all the people that I worked with, like I as much as they were based on my friends, they also their dynamic was very much the way it was, having to work in an office and have to deal with people that you needed to work with in order to function through your day. So I always saw it more of like an office type, not the office, but my experiences in the office that I worked in were kind of that, or family. I mean, if you think of them as a family, Ralph was the dad, Sam was the mom, Mayberry was the teenage son, Sammy was the baby. And I wrote him a lot like that too. It was like a really, really dysfunctional family. There was some character that I always thought of with Roberta, like the way that a little bit like Marge Simpson a lot. Like she was always like just kind of put up with it. So yeah, this is super tiny, but this I think is going to work for the start of the head. I usually don't work this small, but I don't feel like wasting all my materials. Yeah, I like Sammy too. Sammy's great. I actually like Ralph quite a bit. I think Ralph is a great character. He had quite a following back in the day. And nobody knows how to draw him except me, apparently. He's a hard character to wrap your head around. He was there were a lot of people who, well, myself included. I mean, when I was doing the Melonpool movie, I wanted to play Ralph. I thought he was the best character. I thought he was kind of the most like me in a lot of ways. But everybody's like, "Oh no, you're Mayberry. You're totally Mayberry." So I became Ralph. I mean, I became Mayberry, and my friend Eric played Ralph. there's this idea that Sam is kind of Snoopy, although I never wrote him like that. I kind of wrote him more as like somebody that is the one person that knows all the answers, but nobody will listen to. Whereas Snoopy kind of lives in a fantasy world, and has his own way of doing stuff. Is it still? Am I? Oh, I'm way behind. I think this machine is seizing up on me. But at least I broadcast today. I have a Gilligan action figure that's probably about this right scale. I should go get it and try and build it to that. Let me go get it. Okay, and we're done. So there we kind of have an idea how this is going to go together. Not really. This needs to be a little bit bigger proportion to it. It's going to have a piece that goes down the back to the tail, a piece that goes down the front, and then two little gauntlets and two leg pieces, I think. No. Here's how it looks with me and Bob Denver. Almost the right same size. This is a terrible sculpt. Yeah, I have no idea. You asked about the fan base. You're saying happy that there's a small but dedicated. I didn't treat him very well, and I need to do something about that. I would get so frustrated that I couldn't find the same fan base that some of the other strips had, and I probably could have handled that a little bit better. I don't know, but part of it too is it, and I had to explore this. Is that it was something that I came up with when I was a little kid. I mean, I maybe started when I was 6 years old, 5 or 6 years old, and there are things that didn't make sense about it. The Sam and Sammy, the Ralph and Ralphie made a little bit more sense, but I mean there were things that didn't make sense, and I refused to fix, and you know I tried to justify it and write around it, and it kept going, and it didn't find the audience that I had hoped it would. It found a really, an audience that enjoyed it, but it wasn't enough to sustain it. And I got to a point where I really felt like maybe I spent so much time on it that maybe I should be trying on something else. So, I did Cryptozoa, and I did the Sit Tilly Sit, and I've had other ideas that have come and gone, and any one of those could have hit. I think Eddie the Therapy Dog is kind of a fun character. I don't know if he's worth a comic, but also, when I graduated from high school, I graduated from high school in 1990, and 1990 newspapers were still a viable thing, and within a couple of years, they were starting to go away, and so newspaper syndication for a comic weren't as much of a career path. I guess it never really was for the most part, but it wasn't something I could really do anymore. So I was kind of trying to keep that alive on the internet, and I think that it kind of evolved into something else. What made sense on the internet. Okay, so other ideas for strips. I had Cryptozoa, which wasn't really a strip. It was about a little girl who hung out with the Loch Ness Monster and Bigfoot and the Chupacabra and the Jersey Devil, and they were searching the globe for her parents, who were monster hunters, and that was one of them. Another one was this thing called Alan, and it was about this alien. It was Allen, and it was a guy. He was an alien, like a Gray's alien, with the big black eyes and the pale head. And he grew up in a family where they had never told him that he was an alien. He just thought he was a regular kid, and so it picked up. It picked up where he was like 15, and nobody had bothered to tell him that he was not human like everybody else, and so it was about him dealing with that. And then there was another one that I kind of started developing called Mosquito Man. And it was about this guy who convinced his like 6-year-old son that he was a superhero. And then he actually had to become a superhero in order to I guess keep it going enough. So that was another one. Sit Tilly Sit are basically one panel strips about my dog, and I actually did 3 books of those. You can find those on Amazon. And I think those are the main ones. But I always come back to Melonpool. Melonpool always is there to some extent. I mean, I haven't had this sketchbook for very long, and I know there's pictures of Ralph in here. What else? Here's a picture of Mayberry. I may have drawn this online. There's a picture of Mayberry. I mean, I'm always doing something with them. Yeah, I don't know. What's that? I know it doesn't look like much, but when I get on here again, it's going to look pretty awesome. And I got to get it built by next week, so. All right. Well, let me take it. I'm going to take it apart now and see what I can do with it. Mainly, it's really easy for me to stop doing something when I think nobody's watching. Nobody cares. And so it's that's one of the reasons I came on tonight, is because I it's been a couple of days since I did one of these, and I didn't want to get out of the habit of doing it. No, I'm not really doing a mech build on this, although it might have a jaw that goes up and down. I'm not sure. I'm Hi TC. TC asked if am I working on a mech build? What I'm working on is a Godzilla partial costume for a concert. They want a foam version of, or basically a mask and tail and parts that they can use on stage as the orchestra plays. And so I'm trying to figure that out, figure out a pattern. I'm using cardboard right now because I'm not really seeing the shapes. What I need to do is buy this toy so that I have something to do, but I don't think I have enough time to get it shipped to me. So, and I'm destitute right now. Thank you. I think that there is. I wish more people would share their process, because my process works for me. I think it's a good place to start. I think there's other people that have other processes that might work for other people, but this is the way my mind works, and it seems to work for me to visualize the shapes and stuff. And if it helps somebody else find their own process, I think it's great. I also realize that some people don't really want to figure out the process. They just want to build the puppet. So that's why I'm starting to do some more patterns for people, because I feel like they don't really need to know the process as much as they just need to be able to build something, and which is good too, But let's see his front. So I'm trying to figure this out. This is the shape that I've come up with for Godzilla's head here. This is his nose. This is his muzzle. This is his neck. This is the top of his head, and that's the back of his head. I don't think I can make this one big piece and cut it out because I'm using a denser foam. But I could probably make this piece as one, and this piece, and then glue them together and kind of move that around. I think I can do that. And I am kind of just ripping off that one guy online. But yeah, exactly. I mean, I watched all the Adam, or just about every one of Adam's videos, and I, you know, didn't use everything, but seeing the way he built was made me think of ways to build the way that I could build. Let me see if I can actually get this so you can see what I'm doing. So that's kind of the template I have going on now. I just got to blow it up real big so that it would fit on my head, like it would fit on Gillian's head here. So Chase says, it's confirmed that Grimmy and Garfield are in the same universe. I didn't know that. I know that they've done one-offs. I think Mutts and Charlie Brown are in the same universe. I know the dog from Mutts shows up in one of the later Peanut specials or Peanut strips, and I know Snoopy shows up as Garfield's reflection in one of those comics. But I haven't followed comics in years. It got to a point when I would read it and I just get so depressed as to what was in the paper. Didn't even want to deal with it. It's like they syndicate that. Yeah. One of these days, I am going to start doing Melon Pool Mondays, though. Once I get a little bit of money coming in and can start doing it, I really want to at least tie up the loose ends in Melon Pool. I have this idea for like a 6-week storyline, which would cap everything off and make everything make sense. And why I can't sit down and do it, I don't know. But yeah. Oh, that's interesting, TC. TC says he's going back and doing a rebuild of all of Adam's patterns. The only one I built was his fish. My cousin's son. So what's that? Cousin once removed. He's a pretty successful YouTube fisherman named Cash Troop. He was really into the puppets, so I made him a fish puppet, and I used one of Adam's patterns as a starting point. I ended up altering it quite a bit, but at least it got me over the hump. And I don't even think he had that pattern up for sale. I think I just kind of figured out how he did it from watching his video. The things I learned from him really were doing the patterns out of clay, which I've never really done. But also I do the I basically build my removable arm rods the same way he did. I did change a few things because it worked better with the way that I build. My biggest thing that I do, which is something BJ did, but I kind of modified it a little bit, was I really like having that shoelace running up the arms so that you have a little bit more they're a little bit less likely to break. But I also don't use the hot glue as much as Adam did. I used to use a hot glue from time to time, but I don't like how hard the seams get. But it is certainly more healthy to use hot glue than using contact cement. Well, I am gonna probably, number one, I got to restart my computer, but I also really have to figure out how I'm going to blow this tiny little thing up big enough to go onto somebody's head. And I fear that's going to mean I got to do some math. So anyway, but at least I posted tonight. I'll do more tomorrow and in the morning. And then I'm probably going to go out. If I don't go out of town for a couple days, I'll be broadcasting all week. And hopefully Terry will sell, and I'll probably have Zoidberg go up this week as well. Maybe Strange Pork. We'll see. Actually, I don't know what else I would sell. of all the puppets I built. I mean, when doing the Melon Pool puppets, I suppose I could, if I did some work, I could sell data, but I don't really want to sell data. I could probably sell Rosie, but I have to do some work on Rosie. Maybe Yoda or Noda. Yeah, Chase. I always throw the puppet stuff into the animation one when I do stuff like that. The one that I do have a Patreon page that I don't do anything with. I feel a little guilty about it. I need to convert that over to be Puppet Troop from Melonpool since I haven't updated it for so long. But I think it could kind of all be encompassing. Maybe it's like the art of Steve Troop or something, and then I won't feel quite as bad about not doing too much on it. But yeah, so yeah, these sales are to keep me in my apartment for another couple of months. So we'll see. Alrighty, I will see you guys tomorrow morning, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see if I have anything done on this this Godzilla, because again, it's one of these things that I think once I can wrap my mind around it, it'll come together. But the biggest thing I have to wrap my mind around is how do I film it? It is going to be so huge. It's going to be like 7 feet tall. So I'm going to probably need to figure out a different way to configure this little room so that I can actually, you can see what I'm doing. So, all right. I will see you guys later. Have a good night.